All right, we'll try that again. I don't know what's going on. I'm not at home, and so my internet is not the greatest right now. So back to where we were talking about sympathy, compassion, empathy, the difference between the three of those things, and also what's going on in the news today. So thank you for joining me again. If you were watching earlier and I got disconnected, thank you for coming back. Okay, so let's get back into it. I'm talking about sympathy, empathy, and compassion, the only way to move forward. But more than that, I'm talking about what's going on again in the news today. And so I see this overwhelming kind of this rhetoric, as it's always a rhetoric. It's always a way to kind of sell you a certain way of feeling, a certain way of thinking, and for the most part, we all kind of take onto it what we want. Good morning, Sammy. Yes, please call me when I'm done with this. Let's talk here today if you'd like. So what I'm getting at is that I've been noticing really, there's a lot of communities that are very afraid right now of the future, and it's being felt and heard through the media. And what I've noticed a lot in the media now is that people are coming to a new way of being. Almost, it's like they're almost tired of listening to what their mothers or what the corporate people are telling them, and they're breaking rules on the news, and it feels as though they're starting to do news again. It feels that way. I don't know if it's true or not, but it feels that way. And in that, these people are now really talking from I'm going to go back to this thing that I was watching on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg says, listen, it was really tough for many parents to go up to their children in the morning and say, hey, Donald Trump won the presidency. Because you have to understand that we can filter out a lot of the rhetoric that's coming in, because we can determine really what's BS and what's not, but children can't. And they see this as this monster because that's all they've heard. They've only heard that this guy's a monster, that he touches children, that he hates women, that he doesn't like the Muslims, he doesn't like the blacks, he doesn't like the Hispanics, and there's comedians that are making jokes. Seth Meyers, I believe he is, he does a bit where he's like, I went up to my child and I put her in her crib and I said, oh, tomorrow you're going to wake up to a woman president. And then he came back at 12 o'clock at night and shook his baby until he woke up, and he said to it, okay, well, maybe you're going to be waking up to a guy who's a steak salesman. And that seemed to calm her down. And then he goes, and then we go to bed and our dog jumps in bed with us, but we had to, it's an Italian Greyhound, but we had to calm the Italian Greyhound down because the Italian Greyhound wasn't sure if it was going to have to go back to Italy. And so the joke itself is funny, but if you look at the understory of what he's saying there, the underbelly of the story is that we're all living in fear now, wondering if our parents are going to be thrown out of a country that they've been living in for 15, 20 years, wondering if we really are going to build a wall that goes across the United States, wondering if all of these things are actually going to happen. And so we're all in this very kind of bubble of fear, this bubble of being scared. And so this is why I say that sympathy, empathy, and compassion are the only ways to move forward as of yesterday. That's the only thing we can do at this point. Because what we've been shown in some way is that we don't want a misogynistic, crazy guy. For the people who are actually there, the people who are afraid that this guy can turn into a Hitler, for the people who are afraid, there's also people who are very much happy right now, very much the same. They're on the actual opposite side of that whole feeling. So they feel like, hey man, this is good. this is good that Trump is in, because now he's going to totally shake everything up. He's going to make things different. He's going to do all these things to so there's, in the same way that this whole thing was so bipolar, in the same way, it's the same way now. You know, the people who did not want him are now in fear, and the people who wanted him are happy. And the people who, I mean, listen, I'm afraid for the people who, when you start telling women what they can do with their bodies, or who the LGBTQ community can be or can't be, or how they can live or how they can't live, these are all very frightening thoughts for a world which in the past 15 years has become much more open to the idea of the gay, lesbian, transgendered community, or the people who are questioning themselves, or the bisexuals, or any of those. So for that's a very huge kind of thing that's going on right now. And like I said, the only way to move forward is to have empathy and sympathy and compassion, even for those who you don't like. And that's, I mean, more so for them than anyone else, is that you have to start to understand the other point of view. And you also, on some level, have to understand that maybe you were living in a country that you didn't really realize you were living in. Because for the most part, 3/4 of the country voted for this guy. So maybe we've been living in some kind of like weird reality where we thought that we actually had some kind of understanding of what we were living in, when in reality we had no idea. And so you have to have sympathy, empathy, and compassion for these people in the future, for the people you don't understand. And that's the only way. So really, let's pull all of this together. Let's get it all into like a coalesced concept. So basically what I'm hearing over and over again in the media is that we are all kind of like at arm's length, but we still want to know what you're going to do, because at every step of the way you've proven every single one of us wrong. The ones of us who didn't believe you were really running for president, the ones of us who thought it was a joke, the ones of us who thought that after your first piece of rhetoric or whatever you were going to fail, after all of that stuff that happened, and you ended up becoming president. So every single one of us who were like, nah, it'll never happen, that's great. Well, we have to now realize it happened, and we must have sympathy, empathy, and compassion for the people that we don't understand. Because it's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward. We have to start to really come together. We have to come together. And we have to come together even with those that we don't like. And with that, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and make this a short one today. I hope that you're having a beautiful day. I look at you and I say thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling other people about these videos. I had a great conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who I ended up staying at her house last night. But I had this great conversation where there was a kid who's a magician, and he was like, oh, who's this guy? And she's like, oh, it's then the first thing she showed him, instead of like a magic show or something else, or magic trick or whatever, was one of these videos. And it was just very cool. And so once again, I want to say thank you very much for all of you guys who are keeping up with me every day and watching every day and spending your time with me. I really do appreciate you, and I really do love you. I can tell that today was not a popular day, and yesterday was amazing. We had like 15 people for like, I think 30 minutes straight, and we were like going off about how we felt, and it was a really intense show. And today seems to be a little bit more kind of subdued, and it seems as though me talking about sympathy, empathy, and compassion seems very to be bringing anger on some level, or people are just like, I don't want to hear that shit. Sympathy, empathy, fucking compassion. Brr. And if we hold on to the anger, man, we're gonna be fucked. We have to. We've been given the opportunity to be able to stand greater than ever before. Because if we now are even smaller than before, then we should band together tighter and more than ever before, because now we know who we are. We know who the people are that don't want to be bigoted. We know the people who are not wanting to be misogynistic and rude towards women and other races, and so we know who we are now more so than ever. So if anything, we've been given the opportunity to say, hey, listen, let's band together. Let's put ourselves in a much more tighter group than we were before. So this isn't so much a bad thing. You see what I'm saying? And I think many people are taking this as being like this last end all result. And I think someone even posted on my page, if you want to go look at it after this, something about how this has to do with the Illuminati, and how this is all about Trump being somebody against the New World Order, and how Trump and Putin both want to destroy the central banking systems all around the world. And they were using this kind of, or at least Trump was using this vitriol, this kind of character, to just get everybody on his side. And then as soon as he had everybody on his side, he was just going to be like, go fuck yourselves. I was really just fucking with you. I'm really not a racist. Come on, really? I'm really not all these things. But listen, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence with who he is as a person. I don't know him personally. I don't know who he is. You know, a lot of people who say that they work for him or have been really close to him say he's a really, really good guy. But what do we know? And that's the thing about what I was trying to say the other day about fame and about having so much and not being able to really relate to people anymore. And it's because there's a totally different way of thinking with the people who are famous and people who are wealthy. It's a different way of thinking. You know, they say that if you gave everybody an equal portion of money in the world, everybody got an equal portion of gold, let's say, in the world, in less than 1 year, the people who are rich now would be rich again. And they say that because it's the way that these people think. It's a mental projection of what you're thinking at all times. I call it mental push-ups. I think if you've watched me, you've heard me talk about that. You have to keep in your mind what you want in front of you, and you have to know every single sordid detail of what that projected image is. They need to hear it. Who's Link Smith? I don't Links. Thank you for coming in. What do you mean by they need to hear it? I don't know what you mean, but are you saying the 1% need to hear it, or are you saying that the people who are watching need to hear it? But nevertheless, this is why I say that sympathy, empathy, and compassion are the only things that we can walk around with right now. We can't walk around with anger. Oh, you said that not too many are watching. It's okay. You know what? A lot of people don't watch this early in the morning. I've been getting messages from people who tell me that they get up at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the first thing they do is watch this in the morning. So for them, this is morning, and that's okay. You know, that's good enough for me. I've been getting, you know, close to 100 and something views per video, and I know that the numbers are really kind of stretched, because as soon as somebody scrolls and they see it, and if they just watch it, even if they click on it once, that's considered a view on Facebook. My phone is acting up. I said that a while ago. My bad, love. You're good. No, it's not you. It's actually the connection on Facebook. But that's okay. Any way around it, I go back to saying that we have to live with sympathy, empathy, and compassion within ourselves, because especially with people who are, maybe if you're not a Trump supporter, people who are Trump supporters, we can't be angry. If we walk up in anger, then we are no better, supposedly, than the people who we supposedly don't like. And we can't come in and force some ideal or thought onto them. We have to be the best we can be for ourselves. We have to give to ourselves, love ourselves, share with ourselves, and love ourselves, grow. Sharing compassionately and doing it with sympathy and empathy. And if we're not doing that, then we're forcing some kind of part of our ego upon somebody. we're telling people what we want them to do. In other words, we're trying to change everyone around us, and we can't. There's just like in nature, there's plants everywhere, and some plants are like vines and they kill plants, and there's other plants that are able to deal with that, and there's other plants that can't deal with that. And it's just like that. We're like plants. We're just like each one of us an individual, different, loving, beautiful type of plant. And so, so Navi comes in and says, you said some don't want to hear about empathy. I answered with, but they need to, because if they don't, then things will never change. Exactly. And that's what I'm getting at in this video and today's little thing. So let's just cover it all up and put it into a nice little bow. Today we were talking about what's in the news, how there's this, just in media in general, and there's this overwhelming kind of consensus that I've felt that one is that people are stopping people from being able to do like the rhetoric of anger. I've been watching that a lot. There's always somebody on a panel who's like, listen, we need to stop doing that. And I really, that's a thumbs up to everybody who is doing that. And then the other second thing I'm hearing a lot is, listen, I may not like the choice, but I want to see what happens before I talk shit, because every step of the way, this guy has proven me wrong. So I've heard that kind of thing as well, overwhelming, over across the board. So what does that do? So the second story is, what is that kind of thing? Well, that kind of creates a certain amount of fear, and yet it's almost like you're petting an animal that's in fear. And if you've ever done that, you see a dog that's like shivering because it's scared, and then you try to pet it, and it does like this thing, and it jerks back. And that's what we're doing right now. We're doing the jerk back of the feeling, of the moment, of somebody trying to pet us with, oh, don't worry, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and just because he's proven you wrong every time, don't worry, they're going to be okay. And that's kind of hard to do with people who are disenfranchised with the whole conceptual idea in the first place. So, knowing that, what does that do? How do we fix that problem? Well, I answer it with the answer of what this whole show is called: sympathy, empathy, compassion. And knowing the differences between the two, or between the three. Knowing when to be sympathetic, knowing when to be empathetic, and when to be compassionate. And I say this a lot to people. I haven't said this many times on the show, but give to everybody you ever meet in your life. Everybody, give. But only keep giving to those who give to themselves. So if somebody's not reciprocating, and when you give, then don't keep giving. Stop giving to that person. Stop allowing that drama, that mental anguish of somebody sucking from you. That's a succubus. It's a vampire in your life. If somebody's doing that to you, then stop talking to them. Stop hanging out with them. Stop answering the text. Stop responding. Just stop. And they will respond maybe another 100 times at the most. Just don't respond. And when they say something that pisses you off, don't respond. Just let it go. Just walk away from that anger and pain and frustration. Live with sympathy, empathy, and compassion. And if you think about it like that, it's so much easier. If somebody bothers you, I have empathy for you, man. I realize what it's like to be, in pain and angry and lashing out at somebody and projecting my emotions on somebody. I know what that's like. Sympathy, I feel sympathy for you when you're in a bad place. I want to help you out. I want to do the best I can. I want to have compassion for you. I want to give you the best I can of myself. And then when you do that, no expectations. No expectations. Except that person does for themselves on some level. Because everybody has their own vessel. Everybody has their own cup. Everybody has their own cup. And each cup is bigger and smaller depending on that person. On their genes, on how they grew up, on where they're from, on whether they were rich or poor when they were younger, a lot of things. So everybody's cup is different. So even if you see one bit of action, how do you know what that amount of action took that person? Even if it's just brushing their fucking teeth. Excuse my language. Even if it's that, just anything. Okay, guys, I have 5% on my phone and my phone's going to die. I want to say thank you very much for watching. I want to thank you very much for sharing, liking, subscribing. Please do me the best you can today by doing the best you can for somebody else. What that means is just carrying somebody's bag, opening a door, finding somebody who looks like they're sad, who looks like they're not in a good space, and walking up to them and asking them if they're okay. And then if they say no, taking the time to share with them. Even if it takes you to be late somewhere. You've been late to somewhere before, you can be late again. You'll have the best explanation for why. And then after that, if you can't do that because you have agoraphobia or you're scared or you're worried or whatever, you have like social anxiety issues, that's okay too. You know what? All you have to do is love yourself today. Make yourself like something that you really like to eat or something that you really like to do. Love yourself, care for yourself, because it starts with ourselves, my friends. Sharing, caring, loving, and giving. I love you all. Thank you very much for liking, sharing, and subscribing these videos. I'm going to do this every single day. I'm not going to stop. I want us all to go out there every single day and kick ass and take initials because we don't have time for the names. My friends, I love you very much. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.